All right. Welcome everybody. Who we got here? Margot, Dupe. Please. Yep, I think I'm saying that right. Becky, welcome. Everyone else, please let us know in chat. How are you doing? I got Julia here with me. Julia, do you want to say something to the people?
Hey, how's it going? So excited to be here and to talk about donor engagement today. I love just connecting with donors. And actually, Ernie and I were just chatting about a way that he and I connected, which is that we both love food. So if you want to put in the chat some of your favorite like local restaurants to where you live, would love to hear your recommendations. Where are you all eating in your hometowns these days?
Yes, do it. We had a pretty good discussion about all the foods. I'm a big
Yeah.
foodie. Julia seems to be a foodie as well. So please let us know what is some of your favorite things, or what you have for breakfast today or lunch. Blue ginger sushi, I like it. If you're ever in the San Diego region, I already shared this with Julia, but Mona Lisa sandwiches
Mm.
in Little Italy are the way to go. And I love a good sandwich. So, you know,
Yes, a good sandwich. I'm from Fort Lauderdale. I'll take any cuisine that is like right on the water. I like a view, you know what I mean? And a happy hour. I like discounted food. That's a good
happy
move.
hour and a view is like the thing. I mean, come
I
on.
mean, what more could you want? That's why you live in places like Fort Lauderdale, right?
I love it. Hi, I'm Kim from City Lights Theater Company in San Jose, California. Welcome, Kim. Please, as you're joining, share some of your favorite foods. Making choice in Chicago. Hey, Chicago's got some really good spots. There's a place with really good cupcakes in Chicago. It's called
Ooh.
Molly's Cupcakes, if I remember correctly. Julia, keep that one on your tab
I
list as
love a good cupcake. That is an important thing to have in the
It's
repertoire.
really good. They put like chocolate chip cookies inside of the cupcakes.
Oh,
It's like a never-ending like fun cupcake experience.
that is my dream.
All right,
It is
welcome
so
everybody.
interesting to me that like everybody has the spots in their town, you know? Like it is an important thing to know where to send people to eat, right?
Yeah, I mean, food. I think food is what brings us all together. That's
True.
nonprofits brings us all together. It's like food and nonprofit. It's like a thing. There should be a podcast like food and nonprofits, and it's like what is that like one cool YouTube thing? They eat the hot wings, the hot ones.
Oh yeah.
It should
Hot
be like
ones.
food and impact, and then it's
Yes.
like the more impact you do, this not the spicier, the sweeter maybe the food gets. I don't know.
And we'll end with those cupcakes with cookies in them. That sounds like a
Yeah,
dream.
doesn't end with a really high like sugar rush.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Julia, I think you can start. Everyone here, let's get ready. Julia, if you want to quickly introduce yourselves to us and what you're going to talk about today, but we're all excited. I got my notebook ready, take notes, and we kind of go from there.
Yes, thank you so much. It's great to be here. I'm really excited to talk about this with you all. And it's going to be a lot of participation. So please feel free to join in the chat. I'll try and keep up and we're going to work on some things together. So, hey there, I'm Julia. I am the head of communications at DonorPerfect, but I prefer to go by DonorPerfect's nonprofit advocate because I have been in your shoes. Before working with DonorPerfect, I worked for nonprofits for 10 years. I had every role from assistant to director of development. And we know that as any nonprofit role, you wear many, many hats. So let's be honest, I did it all, as I'm sure many of you do as well. I say this to stress that I know how you feel. I've been in your shoes. I know what it means to like be at an event one night and raise multiple thousands of dollars and then the next day be like sweeping the office. I know there are a lot of roles in this group. So I've been there. I understand. I've been in your shoes. So let your guard down. I'm here to empathize with you and to ideate with you. I hope that you will leave this session with some fresh engagement ideas, some new concepts around your audience, and maybe feeling a little bit encouraged about moving your donors forward. Sound good? All right, let's get into it. Now, you just learned a little bit about me, and I want to learn a little bit about you. So let's kick things off with a quick poll. You can put your answers in the chat. There are many ways to engage with your supporters, and each one plays a role in your organization's success. So I want to know, what are you looking to see more of in 2025? Do you want to see more first-time gifts? Do you want to see increased overall donor participation? Are you looking for higher donor retention this year? Or do you want to expand your base of supporters? What are you all looking for? Margot, I knew people were going to say all of the above. This is great. Yes, Lucas is looking for more first-time gifts, increasing donor participation, higher retention, connecting with donors. Great. Now, I'm sure, as Margot showed, you have a hard time choosing between each of these. Don't feel discouraged. At DonorPerfect, we see these as trends with our clients. In the nonprofit world, it's getting harder to get the first-time gift. There's more competition, for lack of a better term, for your audience's attention. So participation can be down. Year over year, consistent giving is down. And it's hard to find new givers. All four of these things are really difficult when you're working on a nonprofit. So any and all of these goals are common to nonprofits like yours. You are in good company. But spoiler alert, today we're going to talk about ways to make these things happen. We'll do that through exploring what we call modern engagement models. DonorPerfect gathered nonprofit experts to talk about these specific needs and the group created models to address each need. So I'm going to show you those models now. Let's get started. First, we have the funnel. Many of you said you were looking for more first-time gifts. The funnel addresses that. In this model, we'll talk about the wide mouth of prospective donors moving to the narrow base of active donors. We also will talk about the pyramid. This is the model used to help increase participation. It addresses that by focusing on how to build relationship on an existing donor. Next, we have the loop. Many of you said that you're looking for higher retention. Maybe you're seeing people give, but they're not retained. They're not giving year after year. They're walking in the front door and straight out the back door. That is a common issue, and the loop addresses that. And then lastly, many of you said you're looking to expand your audience. In the network engagement model, we'll dive into how to gain contact information for potential donors. So these are all very common challenges in the nonprofit world, and we're going to address each of these models. I also want to point out that these models feed into one another. When someone goes through one model, the next conversion point should be for them to graduate to the next model. For instance, once someone makes a first-time gift, we want to keep them engaged by having them participate in whatever the organization is doing. So we would move them to the engagement model that promotes participation, which is the pyramid. Then we would want to retain them, so we would move them to the loop. You see where this is going, right? After retaining them, we would love for them to be a full-blown advocate, and so we would give them the tools to give us access to their network. Each of these models work together to build your overall engagement strategy, and you can also use them individually. Now, you may be saying to yourself, I have seen these engagement models before, the funnel, the pyramid, how are these modern? Well, there are three important things that have shifted here: the options, the importance of relationship, and the practicality of the conversion points. So let's talk about those three things. First, and this is an obvious statement, but there are four models. When I was in fundraising, I thought that I had to pick a path and take every person down it, but that's not the case. We have four models because there are different strategies for different goals for different donors and segments. Engagement can't be sequestered to one model, even though that's what we've thought for so long, because there's not one need for your donors or for your potential donors. It can't be a blanket engagement idea because it's not blanket goals or blanket needs or blanket strategies. Number two, these modern engagement models focus on the relational aspect over the transactional one. The traditional donor engagement models often focus on moving quickly through steps to secure the next larger gift, but that's not how true engagement works. Donors aren't ATMs. They are people in relationships with your organization. And yes, sometimes a donor moves quickly from prospect to committed supporter, but other times engagement looks like volunteering or hosting an event or telling other people about your organization. These modern models recognize that engagement is relational, not transactional. While gifts are a hoped-for outcome, so are deeper connections, increased visibility, and stronger community around your mission. And then the third reason these models are different or more modern, we're laying out the importance of calling out specific goals in each model. we're not just trying to race from large base to narrow top, like in the model of the pyramid. We're moving these contributors or potential connections closer and closer to your mission by using specific steps. For some reason, I picture the Candyland board. There are all these colorful squares before you get to Candy Castle. The same is true with these engagement models. Each step forward or each conversion is getting your contributor closer to the desired outcome of more pronounced engagement. Now, before we get into the models, there are some big questions, mainly around this concept of conversion points. One, what are the desired conversion points? So if we're saying that we're looking to get the contributor or segment down a path, like the Candyland path, that path needs to be defined. What is that? What does that path look like? And then secondly, once the path is defined, how do we move those individuals or segments along that path? So in Candyland, it's rolling the dice. That's how you move them. But in engagement, how do you get your donors or your potential donors to make that next step forward? These are the things that we're going to work through today. Now, I have an exciting surprise for you as a way to work through these models. The fundraising experts at DonorPerfect have created a donor engagement card deck, and I want to give you some brief context about these cards because we use them through the presentation to spark ideas. Don't worry, we have visual aids like this one while we're speaking, and I will tell you at the end how to get your own deck, which is very exciting. So the context I mentioned. It is a normal card deck, 4 suits, 13 cards per suit, 52 cards in the deck plus 2 jokers. But as you can see in this image, our deck is different because there are prompts on each card to motivate you for some type of donor engagement activity. The 4 models serve as the 4 suits. The prompts on each card pertain to the suit of the model. And the prompts get harder as the numbers increase. So 2 could be something that you can do right now, and a king will take some time in planning. Okay, got it? Let's move on and dig a little deeper into the model, starting with the first model, the funnel. Many of you said converting more prospects to givers was a problem or something you wanted to tackle this year. The funnel addresses that. I know that this was something that was hard for me as a fundraiser. I worked for an organization that did student-led clubs in high schools and middle schools. So I knew there were people out there that were passionate about our cause. Those people exist. But how do I help them know what we were doing and invite them to give? Because that's what fundraising is, right? Not forcing people to open their proverbial checkbook out of guilt or convenience. It's about finding people who want to be part of what you're doing and giving them the opportunity, whether through giving or volunteering or being an advocate. But they can't do those things if they don't know about you. So the funnel will talk about moving prospects, so potential donors, to supporters. Now, I said each of these models would have specific paths. So let's break down some of the conversion points for the funnel. In our funnel model, the goal is to convert new supporters. Again, we're solving that whole problem of gaining first-time gifts. Now, I'll just note here, obviously, receiving a first-time gift is not where engagement ends. There's so much more to the life cycle of the donor. But as I've mentioned, we have 4 models, and each addresses a different conversion for a prospect, donor, or contributor. Here in our funnel, we're addressing the very early stages of the donor life cycle. Okay, as you can see, there are lines in this funnel, and they kind of seem like barriers between the stages. A contact won't go all the way through immediately. These barriers represent the conversion points, the forward movement on the Candyland board. And each layer is a new sub-goal. So the first step is to move prospects to spontaneous contributors, and the second step is to move those spontaneous contributors to dedicated supporters. So the first section is kind of getting that one-time contribution, and then the second section is getting them to be a little bit more committed. Now, I want to take a moment here to talk about the importance of these models applying to real people. When working with these, you should think of a real donor or a potential donor or some sort of contributor like a volunteer, someone who would apply to the goals we talked about in this poll. The person you're thinking of will be someone you're looking to move through the conversion points for this model. The purpose of this is to remind you that these are real ways to engage with real donors. We're not talking 30,000 foot pie in the sky ideas. They're practical and applicable for people that you know. So here's an example. Since the funnel is focused more on first-time gifts, I'm thinking of a real potential donor for my previous organization. This is Philip. He is a member of the Dickens family who, as a unit, was very involved in my organization. In addition to all of their individual gifts, his family had a lot of involvement. So his brother owned a business that sponsored a lot of our stuff. The sister actually was a board member, and the mom was a volunteer. So his 3 family members were really, really involved. But for some reason, Philip never actually gave. He and his wife would attend events. They golfed at our tournament with the business sponsorship, but they never gave or volunteered individually. They were in our orbit, but not connected to what we were doing. So in this model, I'm using him as my real life example. So let me tell you a little bit about Philip and how he is a real person. Philip is in his mid-50s. He has 2 high school age kids. So I know that he's passionate about students. As I mentioned, his family is deeply involved with my nonprofit. And I've also noted Philip's values here. He's a numbers guy and wants proof of impact. These are really helpful details when thinking about engagement. Again, the goal of this persona card that we're looking at is to show you that these models aren't fiction, nor are the people that we're engaging with these practices. Philip is real, and I had a real goal of getting Philip to move from prospect to giver. So the funnel is the right engagement model for this scenario. Okay, let's talk about some ideas about moving Philip through the funnel. Step 1, we want to move Philip from prospect to spontaneous contributor. We want him to make his first gift. Lucky for us, Philip is aware of our mission because he's been around it so much, but he's not involved yet. He is not personally bought in. So what could I do to move Philip? I need to give him a new perspective into what we're doing. Maybe him attending an event just didn't make it real enough for him. He needs to see the action. So let's look at some ideas from the cards. Maybe I'll try inviting him to a tour of our facilities or our program site. Or maybe he feels like he's heard all of it since he and his family have been around for so long, and so he needs some new motivation. Maybe I tell him about a new initiative that could spark his interest. So let's say that the conversation about the new initiative worked and Philip made his first gift, which is great news for me. Now we've moved past the second section of the model. We've moved into the second section of the model, rather, into the spontaneous contributor space. So Philip made a gift, so now he is a spontaneous contributor. This is where the supporter has the opportunity to shift from a one-time act of generosity to becoming more invested as a partner, maybe even thinking about how else they can help. So now I have to think about how to deepen that relationship. Maybe that means enrolling Philip in a thoughtful, story-driven welcome series. Why does our mission matter? Who does it impact? And how can he help make a difference? Or if he's really excited about this new initiative, maybe I'll try and channel that energy into helping us reach more people through him using a crowdfunding campaign. Again, these are stewardship activities that will help Philip to move deeper into the funnel and therefore closer to our mission. So let's say Philip did set up that crowdfunding page and is now inviting others to give to my organization. For me, that qualifies him as a dedicated supporter. He's shifted from a one-time act of generosity to becoming more invested, consistent part of my mission, and he's in. And there we have it. We've taken a prospect through the funnel, from prospect to spontaneous contributor, and then from spontaneous contributor to dedicated supporter. We completed the funnel, and those are just a few examples of how to move Philip along that Candyland board. Now let's move into the next engagement model, which is the pyramid, where we'll talk all about participation. The pyramid addresses the need for more participation. The goal here is to move you or people you know through the opportunity to be more involved in what you're doing. Like I said, there's more competition now than there ever has been with nonprofits getting the attention of your donors or your participants. And so you want to make sure they're opening your emails, they're looking at your events, they're doing things involved in your organization. Our modernized donor pyramid focuses on driving participation by deepening connections and organizing donors by relationship strength rather than monetary value. Let's talk about that a little bit. This is another moment where I want to just stop and discuss these modern models versus the traditional models. I said in the beginning that there are 3 major differences: options, conversion points, and a focus on relationship. Honest fundraiser moment, I am definitely guilty of not putting everyone on an engagement track or stewardship plan. People who gave their time were often overlooked. People who are advocates for my organization could be overlooked. Even, I'm ashamed to say, people who did not give enough could be overlooked. I was basing my engagement on an unfair and honestly inequitable threshold. So let's break this down a little bit. We're talking about the balance of connection and contribution. At its core, we know that monetary contribution does not automatically mean the giver is connected to our mission. Someone could have written a check at an event or a friend's birthday party fundraiser, and they never think about you again. On the other hand, there are people in your community that are deeply connected to your mission, even if they aren't giving in the traditional ways. Maybe they're volunteers or they serve on a committee. But a lot of times people are put on these engagement model tracks because of their monetary giving, which is what I was guilty of as well. And this modern model reconciles that. As a sector, we need to stop equating contributions with connections. Putting too much emphasis on money, specifically large donations, can leave some of your most dedicated supporters out of engagement, and you don't want to lose those people. So if we're saying connection is just as or possibly more important than contribution, especially in this pyramid model, what other behaviors can we look at? Maybe we look at event participation, volunteer work, advocacy efforts, in-kind gifts. There are a lot of ways that people can be involved in what you're doing instead of having to give a threshold of $5,000. So that's what we're talking about with the pyramid. Getting back to the model. The goal of this pyramid, as I've said, is to strengthen relationships. We're solving the problem of increasing participation. For this model, we've broken down the sections as curious, someone who knows about you, they're kind of checking you out, inspecting. Connected, there's a relationship and they're involved. Or committed, these are your advocates, they're all in relationally. And like in the funnel, there are lines to represent the conversion points. We're going from curious to connected to committed. We're strengthening relationships as we move. Okay, now that we've talked about the importance of connection and the idea that we need to be connected to people, not based on their monetary giving, it's time to think of that real life example. What kind of connection goes through this model? For me, I'm going with a person behind one of our big corporate sponsors. I'm from Florida, so in my area, the pool business is a very lucrative one. There's a pool business in our city that has supported our organization for years. The business is a family-owned business, and the family, the Sage family, was actually very connected to our former executive director. And now that our executive director has moved on, they aren't involved anymore. But I know they're passionate about our cause, so I want to intentionally grow our relationship with them. In this model, I'm going to use them as my real life example because I'm trying to build participation. So here you see Aaron Sage. Again, this is a real person. You see him, he's in his early 40s. He has strong family values, especially after running his business alongside his parents. He's actively philanthropic, supporting local youth teams, sponsors community events, and he contributes to a lot of clean water nonprofits. When he was an active giver, he would donate both personally and under his Sage Pool brand. So again, this is someone I just definitely want to build a better relationship with. I don't want to just lose him because we've moved on from our executive director. So the pyramid model is for him. As a reminder, I'm giving you these examples to show the real life of these models. You should also be thinking of real examples. In this context, it should be someone who you would like a stronger relationship with. It can be a donor, a volunteer, a corporation, anything. Okay, you have your examples? Yes, okay. We're going to break down the conversion points of the pyramid. So the pyramid flows from the bottom as the donor grows in participation, and we start at curious. In Aaron's case, he didn't feel as connected as he once did. So what's a way to bring him back in? Maybe someone new, someone who's not our old executive director, needs to know more about him. My move would be to set up groupings of donors and assign these groups to specific team members. Those team members are then tasked with building relationships with their group members. Take them to coffee, share a story, shoot them a text about a program picture from today. We want to let them in. Maybe Aaron dropped off because our old executive director used to give him these kinds of updates, and once those updates stopped, he felt disconnected. If we set up an intentional relationship through these donor groups, Aaron is less likely to fall through the cracks. Or if my team doesn't have bandwidth, which I know many of you may be saying, Julia, who am I going to assign all of our donors to? Maybe I'll get to know Aaron better by sending out a survey instead of a one-to-one connection, maybe a one-to-many, because I don't have a ton of time. So I could create a donor survey saying we want to hear from him. No matter what the goal is, we want to get to know Aaron a little bit better and help him to get to know our organization a little bit better. Okay, so let's say the real example we're thinking of started replying to their staff member that was building a relationship with them. They're more connected now than they were before, so they have moved up in the participation pyramid. So now what? Maybe I plan a small, intimate donor appreciation event. Aaron has given to our org as a corporate sponsor for events in the past, so maybe a nice break for him to be invited to something special and not ask him to give to it. Just a moment to say thank you for being part of this. Or, Aaron is a really savvy business owner, so maybe I bring him closer to my mission and leverage his business savvy by inviting him to a strategic planning discussion. Nothing says I want to be part of this, like brainstorming exciting plans for the future. So this is a good way to bring Aaron in. Okay, and what do you know? Bringing him into the strategy session helped him to really buy into our mission. And now he's truly committed to what we're doing. I can see that they don't just support the mission, they're part of it. And again, there you have it, some examples of how to move someone from curious to connected and from connected to committed. Okay, 2 models down. So time to dive into the next one, which is the loop, which addresses retention. Many of you said that retention is a focus for you this year, which, let's be honest, every fundraiser here is struggling with retention. I remember going into DonorPerfect when I was a fundraiser and running my LIBOT report, my people who gave last year but not yet this year. And I always felt like that emoji that has like their hands over their face peeking out, because I was so nervous to see who would pop up on that list. We all have people who have stopped giving. The modern loop engagement model addresses that. This model is all about interactions. Okay, let me give some context here. In our model of the loop, the goal is to retain the relationship with your supporters. We're solving the problem or the opportunity for you positive polys out there of receiving the next contribution. Now, an important reminder here that every contribution does not need to be a financial gift. These are engagement models, not giving models. We're promoting engagement within your organization. All of the engagement touch points in the loop are based on retention strategies like thank yous, impact updates, opportunities to deepen involvement. Also, as you can see, and I'm sure you've guessed by its name, the loop is not linear. That's because it's ongoing. If we're reducing churn or looking for the next contribution, it's not something you just check off or continue. You have to continue working on it through this model. Okay, let's zoom into this model a little bit. Each of the words in the diagram represent a conversion point in this model. So the first step is inspiration. We want to remind people why they are doing what they are doing. If they're inspired, then they'll want to be involved. Next is the trigger. This is kind of like an ask, but remember, we're talking beyond monetary gifts right now. We want to give them an opportunity at this phase to contribute, whether through time, advocacy, money, items, any kind of contribution. Evaluation is their moment to kind of think through how involved they want to be. And then commitment is when they decide if they want to stay involved. They want to give again, volunteer again, whatever it may be. And again, this is not a linear model. Our contributors will continue going through this loop, so the conversion points will continue to come up. Okay, It's our favorite time to think of a contributor that you want to continue a relationship with. I'm going to choose Devin. Devin is one of our loyal volunteers, donating time week after week in our student clubs. Devin has amazing relationships with students, and we know that they bring such value to our program. We want to be sure that we continue to engage them in all the things happening with our mission. So a little bit about Devin. She's in her mid-20s, renting a small apartment with roommates. Devin works full-time as a marketing coordinator, weaving creativity into all things. And Devin is carving a career path, but her heart is drawn to service and advocacy. Devin is not yet a financial donor, but she's a dedicated volunteer, and honestly, the kind of volunteer I want to keep for next year's clubs. So we're starting to ask people now if they have intent to serve in 2026, and getting Devin to say yes to volunteering is my goal when putting her on this loop. Okay, are you thinking of the person that you would like to retain in one way or another? Let's talk about some ideas for getting our examples through this conversion point. So my first conversation with Devin will start with inspiration. This phase is about reigniting interest. It's not an ask, it's just a reminder of why the mission matters and why Devin cared in the first place. One way to do this is to give a progress update for a goal that you've been working on. Even a simple video or text like, hey, you helped make this possible, can be powerful. You're not here to ask them for anything, just to inspire them. In the next stage, once someone feels inspired again, then you have the trigger, that moment that sparks the ask. It's not necessarily a donation. In Devin's case, I'm looking for her to volunteer. This step is about inviting involvement in any form. Maybe I do that by sending a list of upcoming advocacy opportunities, mentioning the schools that need volunteers in 2026, and showing the potential impact. The third step of the loop is evaluation. This is a really important moment because this isn't a one-way relationship. The contributor needs to decide if this is something they want to be part of. Maybe that's setting up a time for an honest conversation over coffee to be able to let them tell you their thoughts. And then the final stage of the loop is commitment. This is where the relationship solidifies. The donor chooses to give again, or the volunteer chooses to keep going. Maybe here I call Devin to thank her and talk about the impact that she'll make on the students in 2026. Or if it's a monetary gift that you're looking for with your example, maybe you introduce something like a multi-year pledge with tiered recognition. Keeping in mind, this model isn't about pressure, it's about offering options and opportunity to contribute to your organization in one way or another. And just like that, we have completed the loop and we are on to our final model, which is the network. So the final model, again, many of you said that it was important this year to gain new contacts. This is so real to me. When I was in fundraising, I felt like I would go to the same group of donors for things, especially big things like matches or new initiatives. I needed to find a new pool of people, and I needed to stop asking those donors for the same thing year after year. But how could I do that? The network model is the one that we use for that particular need. So in our model of the network, we're looking at ways to activate buzz from all supporters. Again, similar to the pyramid, regardless of their financial status. We're continuing on the theme of focusing on the value of all contributions, not just money. The key, again, is relationship strength. You're looking for the people to work on the network, the people that are most connected to what you're doing. As you would expect, a model centered around networking, we are thinking about people that we know are connected to you, connected to the community. The network model is all about who you know and who they know. In this model, you see a few examples of supporters that you could partner with. So let me break these down a little bit. So you can get a clearer picture of the kind of connections that you can work with for this model. Here are a few examples of people that would be helpful. Individuals, that is what it is. They're people who know people. Socializers, these are kind of your besties. They're the people that have been affiliated with your organization for a while. Think of them as the people who walk into your gala and know everyone there because they've been part of your program forever and they love being there. Next, we have the broadcasters. These are your movers and your shakers. They're connected in many ways in your area. Maybe they're government or religious affiliations, or they're part of some kind of clubs. And then lastly, you have your partners. These are your sponsors or your corporation, the people behind the businesses that maybe sponsor your golf event. Now, I know we've broken this down into a few examples, but the truth is that everyone knows someone. You can use any connection to help with your network. That being said, this time I'm not going to give you an example. I really want you to think through this one. Who do you know that can bring you into their network? A volunteer, former staff member, maybe a board member, anyone. Think about that person. Who are they? What are they passionate about? Why would they let their community know about you? Fill in some of these details because these are real people and they apply to real people. Okay, you have that person in your head. Now let's talk about how to engage them. First, we have the socializers. So these are kind of the connectors in your community who really help your mission reach more people. They may not be your top donors, but they're incredibly valuable because they know how to bring others in. They keep your message and they help get your message to travel. Maybe your board can count as your socializer. So for this example, we'll talk about a board member. You can ask maybe a board member for a list of contacts who fit your donor persona, somebody who's most likely to give to your organization or to be part of what you all are doing. This is an easy way to identify connectors hiding in plain sight and potentially using them to spread the word. Next, we want the socializers, your board member in this case, to connect with individuals in your circle. Maybe you encourage your board to bring them to an event or bring them in through referral incentives for new donors or volunteers. Next, we want the socializers and the individuals to widen their reach by identifying a broadcaster in their network, someone to amplify your mission publicly. They're proud to spread the word. They're people who can bring their resources, reach, or reputation to support your mission. Maybe they're bought in through a networking event that introduces new people to your nonprofit. And then the last stop on the network model, partners. This is where you ask your socializers, individuals, and broadcasters for bigger connections. The businesses, community groups, schools, local clubs, even vendors that they know. You can curate these connections by brainstorming ways to involve partners in your next campaign and presenting that to your network to share with their connections. As a reminder, the networks you are accessing are from people who know and love you. They've been through your models and they want to do more. For me, this was someone named Dawn that I worked with a lot. I would ask her all the time for a match. And eventually it was like, I cannot ask Dawn for any more matches, but I could ask Dawn to let me in to some of her friend circles, tell people that you know about us. Let me sit down with you and your friend over coffee so your friend can hear about what we're doing. I was not using her in a grimy way. I was just showing a new way that she could be involved and help widen our reach, a mission that she was excited about. Okay, and with that section of the network, we have completed walking through our 4 models. I hope you all have some new ideas for donor engagement. As a reminder, we addressed 2 big questions. We covered question 1 by talking through the specific conversion points within each model, and question 2 by giving tons of practical ideas for people to move through the conversion points. And don't forget, these models feed into one another. After someone completes one model, move them to the next one. Have you put them through all 4? Check their participation numbers. Are they still opening emails? If not, maybe it's time to revisit those best practices and put them through the model again. Or maybe you need a new commitment from them. Maybe you want them to do more than just volunteer, but you want them to do a crowdfunding campaign. Send them through the loop. These can be reused over and over depending on your desired outcomes. As mentioned at the beginning, there are many models because there are many goals. So if you establish what you want and then choose the model, that will prompt you through the proper steps to get there. And I know that you've been waiting with bated breath about how you can get your hands on these cards. You can see a digital deck And you can order your own deck at donorperfect.com/cards to get a deck shipped to you. Just fill out the form at the bottom. And once you pick a state, it will ask if you want a physical deck. Now, yes, there are 52 cards in this deck, meaning there are 52 ideas for how to engage with people, but there are way more than 52 ways to build relationships. These cards are not meant to be a complete list. They're meant to spark ideas, help you get unstuck, and turn brainstorming into something that you actually want to do. And because we believe fundraising should be creative and fun, we didn't just stop at the cards. We've also designed a few games to help you and your team put these ideas into action in an energizing and collaborative way. With these last few minutes, I'll run through a few of the game examples. So game 1 is pretty easy. This is pick a card, any card. How it works, you start by choosing the suit that matches the engagement area you want to focus on right now. As a reminder, the funnel is converting new supporters, the pyramid is boosting engagement, the loop is retaining relationships, and the network is for expanding your reach. Once you've picked your suit, you pull one card from the group and you go with it. As a reminder, don't sweat it if you can't do the card. Maybe it requires time, planning, and leadership buy-in that you don't have right here, right now, or maybe it's something you already have in place. That's okay. The card is a conversation starter, not a to-do list. Maybe it spurs you to revisit something instead of create something new. Again, this is just a chance to be creative. No pressure, just ideas, possibilities, and creative energy. Next up, we have a game called High-Low. Here's how it works. You find a partner. Each one of you draws a card at random from your deck, and you flip them both over. The higher card wins. And in this game, you can do that high card, or you can kind of get creative with it. This game is great for brainstorming. Maybe the high card is something that aligns perfectly with your 2025 goals, or maybe it's a stretch idea that sparks a whole new approach. You can also use this game with your boss or your team to discuss your priorities. I said that high card wins, but maybe you and the person you're playing with decides the low card is more worth the team's time. No one is looking over your shoulder, so you can really create your own rules. The only rule is to get creative. Okay, now the third game, this one is called Make 21. So here's how it works. You look through your deck and intentionally build a hand of engagement ideas that just makes sense together and adds up to 21, just like in blackjack. Each card has a value, numbers as is. Face cards like jacks, kings, and queens are 10. You can pick a suit or choose from different suits. This is also a great chance to get out of your comfort zone. Maybe you're looking at a card that feels a little too easy. Maybe you pair it with something bolder. Or maybe there's a number 7 card that you're excited about, and you can add a jack and a 4 to help create a combo that kind of stretches you a bit. This game helps you think in sequences, not just one-off ideas, and it challenges you to take some chances without going overboard. So you can mix and match, see what kind of engagement path you can build as you get to 21. And then the last game, this one's my favorite. This game is called Solve a Scenario. Here's how it works. Start by thinking of a real-life scenario from the fundraising world. Maybe it's something like we had a dedicated donor who used to be on our board, but after they rolled off the board a few years ago, we haven't heard from them. So now you want to re-engage them, but you're not quite sure how. That's where the cards come in. You can search your deck for something that applies to your scenario. Think of each card as one possible action step or idea to move that relationship forward. You might use a few low cards like 2s, 3s, and 4s to kickstart the conversation, and some higher cards for bigger moves once trust is rebuilt. You can pull from any suit, don't feel boxed into one model, and think about what is truly needed. Do you need to reconnect through the funnel? Do you need to deepen involvement through the pyramid? Do you need to reestablish retention through the loop? Or do you need to bring new people in through the network? And there you have it. We've gone through all the models and many examples of ways to play with these cards. I hope you all will go order a deck or at least play the games virtually on DonorPerfect.com/cards. And now I'd be happy to answer any questions or chat with you all about some of these ideas.
Awesome. Well, Julia, thank you so much. You definitely have a bunch of questions. So
I don't know if
let's
that's a good
let's
thing or a
get
bad
into.
thing.
No, that's a great thing. That's the seed is planted of what what are some more things we could do to improve our targeting, to improve the communication. So yeah, please continue to ask your questions. There's a Q&A tab to your left, so you can add questions in there. So what happens is people can vote on them. But I can go through the chat because there's a lot of them inside the chat as well. So obviously the first question was, where can I find the cards on a DonorPerfect website? I think you shared it, but if you want to, if there's a link, but also you can scan this QR code on the screen as well, correct?
Yes, and the link is just donorperfect.com/cards.
Perfect. All right, so there's a lot of people want the cards. I think it's cool. The deck of cards looks really, really cool.
It is so cool. I play with them all the time. They're in my work bag.
That's awesome. Mark asked, how can I identify a donor?
Ooh, I am not sure totally what that means, but I'm guessing a new donor, like someone who
I guess, yeah.
finding a new donor. This is always so hard. I think there are a few ways. So one is talking to your current donors about people in their circle that may be interested in your mission. Another one is like going to places where your donors would be. So, for example, maybe you are like a used book, like you give used books to students. Maybe you work with your local library to set up a little booth there so someone might see you and want to become involved. So just being where your potential donors would be, I think, is a good move. I think also you could use social media to get people to come to you, using the right hashtags, making the right posts, being at the right kind of virtual places is a good way also to find some new donors.
Awesome. Cool. Next question is, how do you go from individual to broadcaster?
Yes. Okay. So individuals, so the network is just kind of made up of different types of people. So an individual is one type of person and a broadcaster is one type of person. The goal here is to kind of widen your network so that people that you know will connect you with the broadcaster. So if you don't know a broadcaster, someone else does, and you need them to get you connected. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's pretty good. You have a donor doc. I'm sorry, DonorPerfect current customer, and she's Amy, and she says ideas on how we can use DonorPerfect current customer here to identify where a donor is in the funnel based on dollars given, gifts over the year.
Yeah, I was also a DonorPerfect user, so I love this question because I also had to tackle this. There are many ways to do it. So you can either do it through like filtering and reports. Maybe you set up a filter for once they give a certain amount, they are on a scheduled report that gets sent to your inbox. Or there's also this new feature in DonorPerfect called Donor Journeys. And it's something that you can reach out to support about, and you can put your donors on specific paths based on their giving or their involvement or their frequency, things like that.
Oh, that's awesome. I'd love to. Yeah, if there's a donor, anything that's a journey that's if there's available, highly recommend taking a look at that because we go through that same process of just sometimes even thinking through like what does a donor journey look like from like page to donation to reactivation, etc. And then looking at your tool and seeing where you can make those adjustments. But I remember like I still do it, like whiteboarding this stuff out and even giving people like little stick figure names and literally just trying to create that journey so then you can really see where to plug and play.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love that. Cool. Emily asked, any tips on getting invited to events outside of the nonprofit world that would give access to potential donors?
Ooh, that's a great question. Let me think about that. I don't know. It so depends on your community, because like for me, there are a couple of giving circles that my community does. And so through those giving circles, you can get connected to other events and just kind of be in the room and able to network and rub elbows with the right people. It really goes back to that network model. Having someone that knows and loves you, like, bring you to things, I think is always the best move. So maybe ask your board members, hey, what events are you going to this year? Like, are you going to a Chamber of Commerce event? Let me come with you. Let me be your +1. Those kind of things, I think, is the best way to do it so that you're not walking in cold.
Yeah, I would kind of lean same concept into that. Is it's honestly not any specific or any one event. I'd say it's anything that's an event that's happening, any B2B, anything networking related, is where you want to be. It doesn't have to be in a nonprofit space, right? It's because
Mhm.
you're in there, like Julia said, you're looking to network, rub elbows with the right people, or essentially anyone, because technically everyone can support a cause. So I think as as you get more involved in events in general and networking, I think that will build a foundation of individuals that you could kind of lean on for support.
Mhm.
Cool. Another question here. How do you find new donors or more information on prospect donors? I do not have a lot of connections in the city yet, so what do you recommend?
Yeah, I think there's a few options. So there is one tool that's called Donor Search that will help you connect with potential donors and try and kind of figuring out who's in your area and who has capacity to give. So that is an important tool and a useful tool. For us, it connects with DonorPerfect. And so it would take your current database and find people that are associated with those people. So there are definitely, kind of, for lack of a better term, marketing tools that you could use. Uh, I think the other way is being at events, like Ernie just explained. That's an important way. And then lastly, I think something that isn't talked about a ton, but is really popular is crowdfunding campaigns.
Mm,
So having people that are connected to your organization, even if it's just 10 people or 5 people or however many, it does not have to be very many people, having them set up a crowdfunding campaign so that they are sharing your mission and your story. And then once those people give, then they're now part of your new ecosystem and you're able to build a relationship with them. So your people running the crowdfunding campaign are kind of like offering their platform to you, and then you get to be connected with new people. So those are just a couple practical ways.
awesome.
Also, I'm sorry, Donor Perfect did a bunch of content around new donors and finding new donors. We work with Dana Snyder. I don't know if you all know Dana Snyder, but she's really wonderful and she's great at getting new people to give to your organization. So if you check out donorperfect.com/new givers, you'll be able to find some information about that.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out Dana. She does do a
Yeah.
lot of that, and I recommend going to that link that Julia just shared. Do have another question, and this was a great one. I love the way it's put together, but do you have any magical science to mapping like-minded and need-based donors?
Whew, I don't know that I have much magic. um, any magical science for need based? I'm sorry, can you tell me the two groups
Yep,
again?
I'll put it here. Do you have any magical science to mapping like-minded and need-based donors? So I'm guessing,
Hmm.
how do you put together to find similar or like-minded donors based on your existing donor list?
Yeah, I think in this case, I would go back to the survey option.
Mm,
And I know that a lot of people don't respond to surveys, but if you find different ways to ask the questions, so things like you send them a survey via email. If they don't respond, maybe at the next event, everybody has like a Mad Lib at their table and they fill it out and tell you what they're most interested in or what they're, if you're an animal shelter, maybe they have an option of dogs or cats or whatever. Just get things in front of them that help show what they're passionate about that you can take back and act on. And then we talked a little bit about like assigning potential givers or givers to different staff members. And so I think you could have these little cohorts of people who are similar to one another. Maybe they can have dinners together. Maybe they sit together at your gala. Maybe you group them in a way that helps them build community as well. Because if those people are building community around your organization, that's longevity too.
Awesome. Well, let's do one more question. Where do you find info about donor journeys to get our nonprofit signed up?
Yeah, so you can go to donorperfect.com I think donor journeys, but it's in our main nav. You can also search donor journeys in our search bar. And we have an ebook about it for those who are not Donor Perfect clients, just talking about the best practices and how you can implement it in your system. And then for those who are Donor Perfect clients, we talk a lot about how to use your tools to set them up.
That is great. So yeah, make sure you go check that out. Get the donor journeys. I'll just put it in a link here in the chat.
Oh,
So
yes, Al,
yeah,
MVP.
Al is always just coming through. I'm telling you, Al's the man. Thank you, Al. Julia, this was such a great session. Thank you so much. A lot of fun chat engagement. People are loving it. Very interactive, very fun. I also had a blast learning about all of this. So thank you so much. Is there anything you want to leave us off with?
Well, I just saw that people are saying that the new givers link is not working. So I'm going to work very quickly to try and find
Yeah.
that link for you all, because I know for me, that was something that was really hard as I tried to, oh, here it is. It's donor acquisition. That's why. We were using fancy words. That's our problem.
There we go.
Okay, there's the link for finding new donors or for donor acquisition. Sorry for the misguided link. But this has been really great. I appreciate all of your questions. I know fundraising is so hard. And so all of these tools that we've talked about, the funnel or the donor engagement models, the donor journeys, the donor acquisition, all of this stuff sounds like a lot. My recommendation is just to start somewhere. You have today to start somewhere. It will not, you won't be able to build Rome in a day, but these are a lot of ideas, and I encourage you to just try something and see if it works.
Awesome. Well, Julia, thank you so much. This was a blast. Everybody else, thank you so much for joining us. This was super good. Such an amazing session. Lots of cool tools now that I hope you've added that are going to help you. And I hope everyone learned something new. I know I definitely did. So that was super fun. Julia, thank you. Have a good
Thanks
rest
so
of your
much.
day. Bye, everybody else. See you all soon.
See y'all.